Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Chrysalis Effect. I am Monique White, your host, and here in the Chrysalis Effect, we are transforming mind, money, and manifestations. And today, I want to speak to you about, well, first of all, let me just say, this is not what I had planned on speaking to you about today, but I have to go with the Holy Spirit's leading. He changed some things up for me. So as the title says, move, get out the way. Some of you, my 80s people, probably remember that song, move, get out the way, get out the way. And that actually, in today's talk, comes from this past weekend. I didn't put up a episode last week because we had a death in the family of a close family member. And the funeral was this past weekend. And so running around preparing for that, I didn't get an episode up, and honestly, I wasn't in the frame of mind to do it. You know, I have a dog sitting at my feet, and he's snoring, so please forgive him. But anyway, going back to today's topic, it comes out of my personal experience this weekend preparing for the funeral. I grew up in an old school church where you dressed a certain way. Excuse me. It was none of that. Show up to church just as you are. No, ma'am. No, sir. None of that at all. That was and still is in certain denominations not the case. And if you are an official or someone with a title, there is this expectation of how you present yourself. So it was my father's brother who passed away. Not only a great man, father, husband, brother, uncle, but also pastor. Superintendent, we affectionately call him Bishop. My father's siblings, he was the only one who didn't go on into the ministry. His other brother was a bishop, and his other siblings, his sisters, also had titles. So I have all this in the back of my mind. There's this expectation of how to show up. And then I got word that the family had decided on a certain color and black and pearls. Excuse me. So now, everyone, just like a lot of you out there, I have put on weight this past year and a half. And I can't even call it pandemic weight because it's not really a pandemic anymore. It's an endemic. It's just the fact that I ate too much. So I could not find one suit that fit. I must have went to like 20 stores, and I did not realize that people in general, because I'm not from that era, don't get dressed. One salesperson said to me, people don't get dressed up like that anymore. I reached out to my cousin. She's like, I get everything online. Well, there was no time for that online thing of, ordering, getting the order, trying it on. If it doesn't fit, sending it back, getting another. So I was getting in a tizzy. I had to find myself a suit. I had to find my daughter an outfit. My 83-year-old father, his brother, an outfit. And then check in with my oldest to make sure that he showed up appropriately. And I'm telling you guys, I must have hit like 20 stores. Let's say it, like 20 stores, running here, there, and everywhere. And I actually said in my mind, I'm like, it shouldn't be this difficult. A funeral shouldn't be this difficult. And by Friday, because I still hadn't found anything, I had to snatch my own self up by the scruff of my neck. And I had to tell myself, Monique, stop. Stop. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about honoring and celebrating the man. It's about supporting the family. It's not about you. It's not about the people that show up or what they will think. My running around and worried about how I looked to others was making it about me. I was becoming my own worst enemy. I was getting stuck on the trappings, if you will, and getting frustrated, upset, and stressed out. All for what? All for what? It's not about you. It was very clear in my mind. So I say all that to say, if you're stuck or feel you're stuck, which are two very different things, and that can be a topic for a different day. If you're stuck or feel you're stuck, ask yourself if you yourself are the cause. Are you hindering your transformation? Are you blocking your next? Have you made something that is not about you all about you by wondering what people will say? What will people think? What does this look like to others? And if you ask yourself that question and your answer is yes, I want to give you some tough love today. I want to tell you to stop. Stop. It is not about you. Now, you might have heard me say that in another context, saying it's not about you, it's about others. But really, when I reflected upon it, it's really not that either. It's about God's intended purpose. God's intended purpose. Move and get out of the way of God's purpose. The purpose of that day was to celebrate the life of a good and faithful servant. It was about honoring someone who did it right, who left here an empty shell, poured out, gave it all, serving his fellow man. It was about acknowledging the example that he was and the legacy he left. All that focus on the trappings was just a distraction to God's intended purpose. It was a distraction from the purpose of that day. this weekend, when it came to me that I was making something about myself that wasn't about myself, that I was the reason I was becoming so frustrated, that I was the reason that things weren't moving forward. The Holy Spirit brought Matthew 6 to my mind and really just kicked me in the gut. And I want to read that to you, portions of that to you. Starting at verse 1, it says, "Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them. For then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward." And then verse 5 goes on to say, "And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him." That was a punch in the gut to me, because what was I doing? I was focusing on the look. I was focusing on how others would perceive me and getting caught up in all the trappings, if you will. And so when you're going through your process, are you standing in your own way by wondering if you are presenting the right image to others and I shouldn't even say right image, because any image that God created is right. But if you're putting on trappings to please others or to be accepted by others, because that's what they expect of you. Again, it's not about that. It's about God's intended purpose. And when you think about the chrysalis effect, and actually the chrysalis itself, what happens when the butterfly emerges? What happens to the chrysalis, that hard shell? That process of when the butterfly emerges is actually called eclose. What happens? Well, I'm going to tell you. The butterfly hangs onto it, hangs upside down because its wings are wet. So for the next couple of days, it hangs. It flaps its wings so its wings can dry out. It's flapping its wings so the waste can leave its body, meconium. Those of us women who've had children know what that is, understand that. But once it has served its purpose, once those wings have dried out and hardened, the butterfly flies away. And that those trappings decompose and disintegrate. It served its purpose. It's no more. So all that, the suit, the dress, all that, in the end, that falls away. That falls away. And it's not about, the Holy Spirit had to let me know, it's not about the trappings. The word says, do not be like them. I'm worried about, because that's the way, and this is another where I want you to catch this, that's the way I was brought up. That's the culture that I was brought up in and raised in, and many still are, that you have to look a certain way. You have to speak a certain way, present yourself a certain way. I even had a cousin tell me, oh, I can't wear that. I wore that before. The people see me in that suit before. It's not about the clothing. It's not about the clothing. It's about that personal relationship. It is about that individual purpose that God has birthed you for. So if your answer to my questions was yes, that you are the cause, I say to you, move. Get out of the way. God can't use you. God can't elevate you. He can't transform you if you are too caught up in the trappings of it all. What happens when a butterfly doesn't emerge as it should? It's not viable. It dies. I designed a mug a couple years ago that says the only acceptance that I need is God's. At the end of the day, what does God say about it all? What does God say about it all? Move. Get out the way. It's not about the trappings. It's not about what people will perceive you as, or other people's perceptions. It's not about what they will say about you, what they will think, how it looks to them. It is about God's intended purpose. Now look at that. Even in death, my uncle is teaching some things. Is teaching some things. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Again, my name is Monique White of Triumph Services. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on the webpage at www.triumphsvcs.com or on my social media channels at Triumph SVCS. Thank you for joining me today. I will see you right back here next week on Thursday. Be encouraged, everyone. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.